Hello. So one of my goals for living as minimally as possible is to get all of my electricity either from the sun or from my car's alternator when I'm driving back and forth between work or wherever I need to go. So in order to pull that off, I'm going to need a way to store energy because I'm not always driving and the sun's not always shining. So I need a battery. What people usually use, especially with solar, is they will use lead acid batteries, the type that you'll find in your car. But I don't really want to use those because they're really heavy and I don't like the materials that they're made out of. They're toxic, they're not good for the environment. Lithium is much safer, so I want to make a lithium ion battery pack. I could just buy one, but it's way more fun to learn how to make one and then actually make it myself, because while I'm using it, I can customize it, I can add to it if I want to. And there's just sort of a sense of accomplishment doing it myself. So I'm going to make a battery. This is going to be the first battery I've ever made. I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm not an expert on making batteries, and making lithium battery packs can be dangerous because if you wire things in the wrong way, you short circuit it. These things hold a lot of power and they can explode and cause fires very easily if you do the wrong thing. So if you do want to make your own, I just recommend that you actually go to some other videos which are more focused on telling you all the intricate details of how to do this, and learn all of that and then try it yourself. Okay, so in order to make a pack, I need lithium ion batteries. And this is what those look like. So this is called an 18650. These are the things that they use in the Tesla cars. The Tesla electric vehicles, the packs in those cars are made out of these things. And they just add a bunch of them together and they get a bunch of power out of them. So and also the Tesla Powerwall, you can put a big like a battery pack up on your wall, and your roof is basically a bunch of shingles made out of solar panels and it charges that. That's made out of these two. Alright, so this single battery right here has as much power as some of the best cell phone batteries on the market. So just one of these. Now I'm going to make a battery pack which has 48 of them. So I'm not going to get 48 times the power because I need to actually up the voltage, and so I'm going to lose some of that in doing that. But it's still a lot of energy storage if this is one cell phone battery, and I'm going to use 48. So I'm just going to give you some of the basics of making a battery pack. So you see here the top, that's the positive end. This is where energy flows out. And this is the bottom, the negative end. This is where energy flows in. If I want to make a battery pack which has more power but the same voltage, I would put them here next to each other like this, so that both positives on their top, and then I would run a wire across them, and I would do the same for the bottom, so it would have two wires running across, and now I have a battery pack which is the same voltage as one battery but has twice the amount of storage. Now I'm gonna do this 12 times, so I'm gonna get about 12 times the amount of energy storage of a cell phone battery. But I also need to up the voltage because this is only 3.7 volts, and I need my battery to be at least 12 volts, like that, that's the voltage of the battery that's in your car. So power inverters which turn DC, which is basically electricity which flows in one direction, which is what a car battery is doing, but the electricity in your house is running on AC, and that means that the power is actually going back and forth, I believe at 60 hertz. And that's basically to solve the problem of DC when it's traveling along a line at long distances. I think it loses a bunch of its energy due to just heat. It heats the wire and it's really inefficient that way. So Tesla, the actual guy, Tesla, came up with alternating current, which goes back and forth like that at 60 hertz, and it solves that problem. So all of our electricity in our house and our appliances are running on AC current. But the pack that I'm making is not going to be running on AC, it's going to be DC. So I need to be able to convert it to alternating current. In order to do that, I need an inverter, and most inverters run on 12 volts. So I need to get 3.7 volts up to 12. And so in order to do that, I'm actually going to run the batteries in a series. So you see the top there and the bottom there, instead of running like this, which is running them in parallel to double the capacity, I'm going to connect the negative end to the positive end of the other battery. And so now we have a battery pack which is the same capacity as one, but double the voltage. So this is like what, 7.4 or something like that. So I'm going to do that 2 more times. So I'm actually going to have 4. Okay, so in order to make the pack, you need a way to actually organize all the batteries together, and then you actually have to run all of the wiring. So I don't have a, well actually I do have a solder, but I'm not very good at using a solder, and using a soldering iron can actually damage the battery because it heats it up too much very quickly. So I could also use a spot welder, but I don't have one and they're fairly expensive, and I don't plan on making a bunch of battery packs, so I don't really want to invest in it. So I decided to go with this kit called Rusin, which allows you to make a battery pack fairly easy, and it basically it does all the electrical connections itself. So this is one little piece, and it comes with like I think 100 of these, and you can see in there it's got a little metal spring, and on the other side is a threaded metal post, and this is where I'm going to actually run the connections. So the battery goes in here like this, and then you would have another one on top like that, and then you're going to just do a bunch of these like that. So another nice thing about this kit is they slide together like that. So you can basically make a custom sized battery pack, basically as big as you want, and just run the wiring, and it's all going to work. So first I'm going to start by actually making the full 12 parallel that I need to get the 40 amp hours. And this is basically going to be the bottom, and this is what it looks like when I've actually put the batteries in. So I haven't put the top part on yet. Ooh, it fell off. You can see that the top, it's basically got the positives going all across. So this is my parallel. It should have 12, but one fell off, so there's only 11. But basically I'm going to run a wire across all these and on the bottom, and that's going to make the parallel circuit and give it the 40 amp hours. Alright, so I've got a couple of rows set up, and I'm going to show you what they look like when they're placed next to each other. So you can see we basically got a row of 12, which has the positive all up. So that's one parallel line. And then next to it we have all of the negative up. And so the reason we're doing that is because when I wire this, in order to get a series, all I have to do is actually run a wire across these two guys right here, because the positive is going to flow into the negative and back down, and then when I have the two other rows here, this is going to flow into the next one. And I also have 2 rows set up which actually have their tops on them, so top and bottom, and they're slid into each other. So now I just need to take those 2 that you just saw, put the tops on, and then I'm going to slide them in here, and then after that I just need to wire it up. Man, that last part took way longer than I thought it would be. It's a little bit difficult to get these all hooked up to each other and lined up, and also to make sure that they all have actually a connection. So you have to check the top and the bottom of each cell to make sure if it's actually getting voltage, to make sure that these things are actually connecting to the battery, because if they're not, the battery's not going to, that specific cell is not going to be doing anything. Alright, so I don't have much daylight left, but there's only a little bit left to do, so I'm going to see if I can pull it off. If not, then I may have to finish this up tomorrow morning. So I'll just give you a quick peek into what I'm doing. So I'm adding these little bars here. So right now I'm making the parallel line, and it's basically just these little metal pieces that fit right onto that post, And then once I've got it going down here and down here, I'm gonna run some lines across like that. Alright, it's getting a bit dark and I still got a long ways to go on this, and there's a couple of the posts that aren't threading, so I'm not able to get the little washers on there. So I may have to do a little bit of soldering just on those couple of posts. Tomorrow morning I'll show you where I got. Alright, it's the next day now, and I got the battery all wired up, and here's what it looks like. So here's the top. It's got these two things coming off. This is the positive end, and this is the negative end. So I basically would just attach things right there in order to get them running off the battery or to charge it. So after you build a battery pack, you got to check the voltage to make sure it's actually coming out at the right amount, the amount that you intended, because if it doesn't, then it means that there's something wrong within the battery. So maybe one of the batteries or maybe several of them aren't connected properly. So let me show you real quick how to test the voltage. Alright, so let's see if this thing can actually charge something. So I have one of these. It's basically like those cigarette lighter power things that you find in most cars, and it has just a couple of clamps on it. So I'm gonna hook these up to the battery. And now this thing is live. So I also have one of these, which is meant for a cigarette lighter, and it has two USB ports in it. So just plug this in here. You can see the light came on, so that's a good sign. Now I'm going to try plugging in my laptop, which is at like 3% battery left. It says it's about to die. Let's plug it in, see what happens. Alright, it says it's charging. Okay, let's try something a little bit more substantial. So this here is actually a 150 watt heat lamp. So that's a lot of energy, and it actually runs on alternating current. So we're going to need to convert the DC current that this puts out into alternating current. So I'm going to do that using a power inverter. So this thing connects to a car battery charger, just like the one that we have here. So I'm going to plug this in, and then I'm going to turn this on. It's got a fan in there to keep it cool. And now I'm going to plug it in. And there we go. We got 150 watts of heat and light coming out of this, all from this battery right here. Okay, before I wrap up, I just want to reiterate the warning that I gave you at the beginning. These things have a lot of energy in them, and if you wire them incorrectly, then bad things can happen. So it actually happened to me while I was working on this. So I was laying these lines which go across, and one of them fell and connected one of these two, in between one of these two gaps. Any of these two gaps, or this gap right here, would create a short circuit in the battery and cause big problems. So basically as much energy as a piece of metal can handle will flow through it, and that's a lot for something like this. So it started making smoke and sparks very, very quickly, and then there was actually a little bit of a flame that was forming, and I had to use like a screwdriver to quickly get it off of there as fast as possible. And then this thing was way too hot to touch. So you can see, maybe you can see how it got all charred up. So basically just be careful if you're making one of these. And another thing is, this thing, if anything metal, like if I put a screwdriver in between these, then it's going to short circuit. So I need to find a way to protect this from anything metal touching it. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. I might find, like, wrap it in electrical tape. I might put like a plastic shrink wrap around it. So you like wrap it and then you use a hot air gun and it shrinks around it real tight. Something like that, but I got to find a way to make sure this thing doesn't cause any problems accidentally. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you give it a like. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, I hope you'll give me a follow. Alright, have a good one.